Well, welcome everyone to this week's edition of System Override. We have some really great stories today, where we're going to be able to debate them and talk really clearly about some neat things happening between employees and AI this week. But before we get there, we have a special guest. I'm so excited to welcome Hogan to the podcast. He is the co-founder of PIPA, so he's going to tell us all about this amazing tool that we tried this week. And so we're excited to share his insights with us today. Welcome, Hogan.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
I am so excited for you to talk about PIPA because as I was looking at it, I have a 10-year-old daughter who's very into animation. I was like, she's gonna love this. She will love this. So I am excited for everyone to hear about it.
That is amazing. And I love hearing that because, to be honest, one of our missions from the very beginning is to make this accessible enough that an 8-year-old could use it. Yeah. And
Love it.
yeah, we'll talk more about that.
That's excellent. Besides being the co-founder of PIPA, what else did you do before you built that amazing company?
Yeah. So I actually come from the agencies background my entire career, really. I also own and operate a experiential marketing agency called A Little Bird, and we work with a lot of food and beverage brands. So bringing those to in real life experiences, whether that's events, mobile tours, things like that. So I've always lived in this world of sort of immersive experiences and creativity, but through a much different lens. And so that's been the primary area of my background. And then we also have been doing over the last, call it 5, 6 years, a lot in the content space. So there was a bit of overlap there when it comes to PIPA. And going back even further, I think one of the things that excites me most personally about PIPA is that I always had, as a kid growing up, this dream of making movies and that whole world. I went to film school for about a year and a half and kind of got that itch that I was like, well, I also want to make a lot of money. And I think it would be really hard to do that in this industry. So I kind of scared myself out of pursuing the creative path,
hmm
although you could say agency space, but it's a little bit different. That said, I've always wanted something that drives me creatively in my work. Otherwise, I just get bored.
We have so much kinship. I went to art school originally as well, and I was wanting, as a kid, you're just passionate. I was more on the like traditional, like as far as like painting and drawing and things like that. And I was thinking about things within that realm or what I could do. Went to art school and had the same realization sitting there as I watched. They would bring in like artists in residence like once a month or something to talk. And I realized the trend of all the stories being like, I lived in my van on the beach for 8 years, but I made it now. I'm like, oh, I've made the wrong choice. I like art, but I also like being a little fancy sometimes, and this is not gonna work.
Yeah. Don't want to live on top ramen for 8 years.
Yeah, exactly. I like a nice dinner out.
So what we all concluded from this is that go build your own business because you have to be creative to build your own
Yes.
tech, especially tech business, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's how we all ended up here.
exactly. And for listeners who haven't looked into Pippa, I was looking it up before we were talking to Hogan and like explain it a little bit. Like you can create your own movies, right? Like it does all the animation and you're able to like build the storyline and the characters and like, the kind of how you want the whole like movie to go, which I thought was very cool because my daughter's 10 and she's always talked about like she's animation, she does some of these other things. She's like, I want to be a director. Like I like writing stories. I like creating these storylines. I like building the scenes and like she has such a vision for it. So I'm like super excited to show her this because I think she's gonna love it.
Yeah, yeah, I'm so glad that came across too, because there are a lot of AI video generation platforms out there, but are very intentional about wanting to not be like them, not just
Hmm.
for business purposes, but because the biggest miss for us, and I think why AI specifically in the design field and creative field gets such a bad rap, is that it takes away the control of being able to be the director, to really be the storyteller, to make it something that feels like something you actually created. Yes, there are plenty of platforms. Upload a story, upload some pictures, it spits out an animated cartoon, but whatever it spits out is what you get, right? There's no sort of middle ground. And the way we built this is that, yes, you can start with a story or you can just start with an idea. It'll even help you build out that idea if you need help with that. But then throughout the process, you're able to see the screenplay before it goes through. You're able to see the storyboards and how it has laid it out for you before you go through. But then if you want, you can be as control freak as you want, so to speak, which is where I always end up going, where you can pick
Me
your
too with
camera.
creative
Yeah,
projects.
you can pick your camera angles. You can, really truly direct it from shot to shot. And then it's also meant to be an all-in-one platform. So even when you're done animating, it gives you the opportunity to add your own sound effects, add your own music, add your own voiceovers and dialogue, the whole shebang. So it's really a soup to nuts idea all the way to completed piece of content in one platform. And for me, the biggest benefit has been, as I've used it more and more, and this proves that one of the hypotheses that I had with PIPA when we were building it, which was I believe that AI, and I've seen this happen to me even within my agency work, people say, oh, it's going to take all the creativity away from people. And I said, no, I think it's the opposite, because when you have this more collaborative relationship with the technology, when I'm making an animation now, I have an idea at the beginning that by the time it's over, I've added so many different things to it from an ideas creativity standpoint, and it's fun. It's extracting ideas from me just by how the process is designed, and that's
Yeah.
really what it's.
I'm just getting excited because, like, I love that whole lens. We obviously live in that lens as League. How do you bridge that? What do the new skills look like? And that's exactly what I saw is like it's actually taking you through a learning process. And that was top of mind for me because in my daughter's school, they were just doing like outside of like any sort of visuals, it was like learning how to write a story and learning how to do the different sections of the story. But I thought, what a cool tool if they could have done it in something like this, way more engaging for the kids, actually like adds extra layers of nuance versus them just writing in their notebooks or typing it in their little, typing it up and sending it to the teacher after. And like I'm not gonna name the teacher, but he didn't even read the story at the end. He was like, it's too long, I had too many stories to read. It's just like, bro, this is your whole job. But like with that, if you'd had something like this, I think it would have been fun for the students. They would have learned the same process, easier for a teacher to absorb, what they made. And then it's a real world skill that they're going to need as they grow up anyways. So like, what a win. So yeah, I thought that was very aligned and very cool. So I loved hearing about that.
And it's so interesting you brought up education, because we're having a lot of early success there because teachers, school districts are seeing this as an opportunity to create lessons. Even like you just said, switch it
Yeah.
up and like instead of giving a child like an essay report or something like that, it's like, hey, we're learning about, the American Civil War this year in our history class. Like everybody make a 1 minute animation that features something that you learned. And
Yeah.
so creating this sort of interactive creative process that reinforces lessons and education is turning out to be a huge factor for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really cool.
And we know that that creativity and that ability to take like a fact and turn it into something bigger is so going to be so crucial as AI takes away some of the manual stuff we do and instead allows us to be more creative and to really think about things differently as opposed to just reading them in a textbook and then forgetting them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
So
only other
cool.
thing I'd say about PIPA, because I don't want to monopolize too much of the conversation, but Bree, since you mentioned, you went to art school. One of our other biggest missions, and this is really super important to us, is we are building this to be artist forward, meaning our objective as soon as possible is for all the art styles that you can pick from when you're animating for all of those to be created by artists. So we have an artist portal where if you have, whether you're a painter, graphic designer, illustrator, children's book author, you can upload your work and it will create a style unique to you as an artist that you can then make public. And every time someone uses that style to create their animations, you
Back to
receive
you.
royalties. Yeah.
That is so cool. I did not take that away from when I was looking at that, and that makes me very excited. I'm going to extra look at this now. That's so cool. Yeah.
She's going to build her own style. I can just
Yeah.
feel it.
Screw the stories. We got stuff to talk about here.
Yeah. Because last thing is we really believe like AI can be a benefit to artists. It's like don't reject this. It's not going away, but there's a
Yeah.
It
real
makes it
opportunity here.
easy to commercialize though. Like I feel like that takes away a barrier from like a large part of artists who maybe have something really cool to share. They're just doing it through social media or like in a really quiet way. And this is a way you could do it at scale and really do something cool. So that's neat. I like
Yeah.
that.
Awesome.
Anyways, I'll stop distracting. Sorry.
Me too.
Episode of System Override was brought to you by PIPA.
I love tuning in when it's exciting, you know, and I'm in.
I love it too. It's a great platform.
Yeah.
I remember the first video I watched was about the condensation, and I was like telling everybody about that video for like days, how beautiful it is and how the water looks 3D and
You
it's
want to know
very
something
cool.
even crazier? That was made in 15 minutes.
Yeah, like I love it when you told me that story. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I think it's great. And so
Thank you.
okay, let's carry on. Definitely has been a busy week for us, and and for the news. This topic, what we continue to work on every week, doesn't change, which I think is pretty exciting. But the good thing is I'm noticing a slant to more positive stories, or maybe I'll call them more moderate. The doom and gloom of a few months ago, which I think is really exciting. And so, with that, let's flip back to last week's big action, which was thinking about ourselves and like that one thing that somebody couldn't take away from us. And I know last week we talked a little bit about our own superpowers and how we kind of look at those. But this week, when I kind of thought about the question again, I went, well, this is as simple as just saying my ideas. And in line with an AI era, your ideas are so amazing because AI can't manufacture your ideas, just so you know. Like, right? It is the one, it really can't. It can't think for you. It can do what you prompt it to do. It can gather information that makes you think about different ideas, but it actually can't take those ideas. And so you really do own the ideas that you have. Then I can throw them out in the universe and the universe can tell me that they're not good ideas. I can't stop that from happening. Even AI might tell me they're shitty ideas, but at least they're mine to own. So on that, Hogan, did you give any thought to this question and how might you think about
I
it?
did. I did. At first it was hard for me because, you don't do that much self-reflecting very often. But I think in so doing, I actually felt a little pride in that it is something I've taken back for myself, especially over the last 6 to 9 months. Ironically, being in the advertising world, which is in and of itself creative, it's not creative for me, right? And so for many years, I fell into that trap of only being creative for others. And within the last year, I got back to I play music and I'd played guitar for forever and I hadn't picked it up in over a year. I've had a piano in my house for 10 years, never touched it, never took a lesson. So what did I do? I went and signed up for piano lessons. I picked up the guitar again and
Nice.
I got back into that so I could have my own personal creative outlet. And then of course, the other work that I'm doing right now has managed to create that for me as well. So for me, it's like personal creativity, creativity that's for me, that's self-satisfying. And the
Hmm.
ability to take that back has had a pretty profound impact on my overall life.
That's awesome. Bree, how about you?
I love that. And it's also a reminder because I have let that slip in my life too. And it's so regenerating. It's like it's not like it takes away from you. It actually like gives back to you, even though you're doing an activity. So that's a good reminder for me, Hogan. I'm gonna have to start getting back into like setting up some space. For me, what's top of mind is I've been doing a lot of like events this last little bit. So I think like speaking and that idea of like your own journey is something like your operating system, what's made you you, what makes you as kind of maybe a meld and like in Shannon's like why do you think a certain way? Why do you, we talked a lot around just like everyone has their own journey and the own things that may have made them up, and so that really dictates a lot of your lens or maybe your perspectives and your interesting take. And so I think that was further reiterated for me this week is it's like, you know what, your journey is uniquely yours and something that is very much your own ownership that nobody can really take that away.
And I'm just going to add a little plug here. Bree killed it. She was the keynote speaker at a Women in Communication and Tech conference that we are partners with them this week. And I mean, the audience was enthralled. They just wouldn't take their eyes off of her.
It
and we
was,
got so much feedback. She did
yeah.
so good.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. The best part was like I could see Shannon and my two other co-founders sitting there like in the top, and they're just like proud moms, like just sitting there, just like it was so cute.
It was fun. It was a good event. So plug out to those guys at WCT. They're a great partner of
Yeah,
leagues and all the people who came to that event. Actually, we just got great conversations about careers and about your own operating system, which is what we built League on, which is pretty exciting. So it was a day well spent, but boy was I tired afterwards, man. It's a lot of talking, a lot of standing. When you're used to being like heads down, working on stuff, the brain, this was less brain work, but way more physical.
and you just don't realize like it was interesting because we've had a lot of events this last like little bit.
Yeah.
The like you don't realize how much just the people part of being out like I'm a outgoing person. I am very extroverted, but you don't realize like man, when I get to work with my like three people in Claude, like that is a very different energy spend like than this like complete utter exhaustion I was falling into. I was like I'm so tired, but I
It's
had a
like
great time. So tired.
stimulation overload
Yeah.
when you're in
Yeah.
those environments. It
Yeah.
mostly in
It
a
was,
good way, but it is exhausting.
but it
Yeah.
is exhausting. Yeah. It was really good. Okay. Let's turn over to our first story, which features Walmart. I don't think we've ever had a story about Walmart and AI before, but this one caught my eye because it was actually about a decision at their board meeting where an investment company had asked if they would go and do a survey, like a testing of the impact of AI on their employees. And the board actually turned it down and denied the opportunity to have access to their employees to do this study. And this is interesting. I guess the story didn't give a lot of insight into what was behind the board's decision. So we get to make up our own reason on whether we think this is a positive thing or a negative thing. So, Bree, I'll throw it over to you. What did you think about this story?
Actually like wound up looking some stuff up on this because I was giving myself a lot of stories. At first I was like I'm like not I'm not very pro union. I don't love unions. So in my mind I'm like, well, are they a union? I'd probably say no too. I don't know. And then I dug in and I read in and I was like, no, actually Walmart's very anti-union. So I'm like, oh, okay, I guess not good framing. Like, yeah, they're very anti-union. But I think the one thing I was thinking of from and more the employer side, is does it I think this is a bad move in the sense like you just created something very negative for yourself by doing this and like instead of like working together with the employees to find a bridge like just saying no to something that obviously people felt passionate about. We talk a lot around like how employers fall down in their actions of bridging this change and how they just don't weather that well. So I thought this was like a very good use case of like, ooh, you just created a spicy fire that it's gonna be worse than if you had just probably said yes. And but with that, I was also thinking things like, well, it is quite early, maybe, in the sense
Mm,
of like change. And so no employees like change when you first bring things in. And so like I could get a sense of like, so did they say no or what or could you agree to it at a later point? Or to be honest, my sales brain went on. I was like, well, this is a good opportunity for League to talk to them because you could turn this into something that was more an opportunity instead of a liability for you. And so that's kind of where my mind went was more around, I don't think it was well executed in terms of like coming together. I don't think employers are going to win this fight by like taking anchor in the big bad, the big bad sandbox. And I don't think that's going to
mhm.
do them any favors. And so, like, how can you think of bridging this with your workforce in a different way? Because I don't think there's going to be no accountability. And so I think you either proactively take some accountability like getting league and like finding a way to really drive that as far as like understanding your skills and making it a joint kind of initiative instead of being this like fight. And then also to like if you don't do that, you're probably going to have it more slapped on as governance and it'll feel more punitive and you're not going to love that. So that was my take. But I'd love to hear Hogan, what did you think?
Yeah, I picked up on a couple of things you were saying there too, which is turning this into an opportunity. And I think this is the big issue when it comes to how AI is being perceived by many, many people, is that it's been framed so much as this thing that's going to take away versus something that actually creates new opportunity, just the way the internet did when it came out, right? the way computers did when they came out. And too many companies are jumping on this operational efficiencies, cutting costs angle without looking at, but then what could I also use to re-empower my employees in a different way and give them agency and ownership over utilizing AI to better this company? And and for me, that's even before AI, the most successful companies have done that, right? They've always said,
Right.
surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, that have different skill sets than you. And the best companies in the world have done that, and they've done that by giving agency and control to their employees. And so this is a missed opportunity in me for me when it comes to Walmart. It's like, not only could this research uncover what may be negatively impacting your employees, but it could certainly and most definitely would uncover opportunities for you to leverage AI better with your team to get better results. So that was a big takeaway for me. And then, you know, I have my own personal experiences that led me to this, but I feel the biggest miss often, especially as companies get bigger and more corporate, Walmart being the ultimate example of that, the lack of transparency between employers and employees is so destructive. And there's this need to retain secrecy. And I think we have another topic we're going to talk about related to that, which is, the in building my agency, for example, for me, the number one thing that I wanted to do that no other agency did for me when I was employee was be open about everything. I want
Yeah.
my team to see what we're spending. I don't want there to be questions about, hey, if we're doing so good, but where's the money going? Like, no, I want us to all feel like we're in this together. And it's been one of the most empowering things for my team, which is everybody truly feels ownership over the company, the direction, how we're doing, and that they really can play a role and the role that they want to play, right? So those were the two biggest takeaways for me on Walmart, is like two big misses for this to be a big opportunity.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like I think we see this chronic well, it's been going on. It came happened long before AI. Maybe it was starting to really rupture before COVID. COVID was a disaster between, breaching trust in between employees and employers. Part of, where the brainstorm came from Bree out of how we built League was about this fracture. Like obviously employees don't feel like their career is owned, like is being managed well by the employer because of this lack of trust. And this doesn't help, right? Like you can still turn down the organization that wanted to do this study if you wanted. Because to your point, Brie, it is a little bit early. I think there's a lot of noise on this topic that could influence, feelings versus like actually the impact of AI on an employee. It could be like more about the environment, and because there is lots of, particularly for service jobs. I read a report the other day though that said service jobs are going to go up again because human interaction is going to be more valued again. So we're coming around to
Yeah.
all sides of the story now.
This is the drive-in diners where they'll come out on the roller skates with a tray. I miss that era, and I'm just really sad about it. It's like that's one service thing I want to come back. So let's just put in where's the box of services we want to see return? You know?
I think you could just go to the Inglewood Diner and tell them that.
No, you gotta walk your little butt up to the window. There's no
That's
one.
what I mean. I think they need to especially in the summertime, a little
Yeah.
harder in the snow, but
Well, one more note on this topic. What you said was interesting, Shannon, about this is early days, and you
Mm.
said
yeah,
that too. The scariest thing though is the early days of AI are 1,000 times faster than the early days of any other innovation.
yeah, it's a
And
good point.
so the biggest risk is that, like, adapting, especially
Mm-hmm.
for big companies,
Yeah,
you don't
Gonna be
have
too.
time to get
Yeah.
caught in the red tape and the weeds and back and forth over how do we do this. You don't have time. You just don't. You have to make quick decisions. You have to adapt quickly, or it's over.
I love
yeah,
that. And I think it adds to your earlier point because when you were talking, I was thinking a bit around the framing you were saying in the sense that, like, organizations are kind of like there's their operating model and they're just kind of looking at AI as like a little plug-in and then they don't want to see but what they need to really be thinking is it actually is going to have a ripple effect and your organization might not look like this anymore. Maybe it's like you're changing your processes. You might be changing the way you approach even like your business. And I think exactly to what you said, there's a level of fluidness. that we're certainly not seeing being unlocked. And so I think it's going to be very interesting to see as they roll out AI, like, are you going to control that? Or are you going to have it control you? Because I think what we've noticed with AI is it's growing, whether you're on the bus or you're not.
Right.
It's not going anywhere. And so how do you wield that and understand you wield it, you don't control it?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think, and that is such a good transition into our next story, which I was so excited about when I read this because I think a year ago, maybe 18 months ago, we had this hypothesis around that with AI, it really would start to level set maybe people who didn't have degrees or, take out some of the barriers to employment if you had AI in your wheelhouse. And so the World Economic Forum came out with a paper this week that really started to see that in groups of, say, older workers and ones that didn't have university or some type of post-secondary education, but if they had AI proficiency on their resume, they were starting to not only get higher percentage of callbacks for job interviews, they were also getting hired at a much higher rate, like 23% more money than they would have gotten, say, a couple of years ago, that they might not even have got the call back at that point. So interesting that in such a short period of time, we're already seeing the monetary impact. And then obviously it's also allowing us to kind of level set on that the AI actually doesn't, like, for all of us with degrees, I guess, I'd be worried, but but you shouldn't just get a job for having a degree either. Like I've always said that the best person should always get the degree. But so this was really interesting. So Hogan, what are you thinking about this? This is what we call a breakthrough, but it also has some negative connotations, I guess, or things people might be worried about.
For me, when I read it, again, maybe I'm biased, but to me, there's no negative connotation there because I agree 100%. When we're hiring people, even for my agency, it's a huge plus and it's a question we ask. How do you use AI? What is your familiarity with these tools? And the reason is like we've been talking about, there's so much opportunity that we have not uncovered yet that AI can do for any business. That doesn't
Mm,
mean eliminating people or roles. It means evolving those roles to be more empowered, more successful, grow faster, do better with the tools if you're familiar with it. And because we've set ourselves up with access, if you will, I was just thinking as you were talking, in a small company, big company, so many employees don't really feel empowered to affect change. But
hmm
AI can really give you that opportunity because, oh, I have an idea for a process. This company is now set up with something like Claude. Well, Claude can actually help me within a few short hours completely revamp a process to be more efficient. And so instead of an employee now, oh, I've got this idea, and then people are like, oh, that's going to take a while to implement as far as change, right? Then there's a lot of headwinds. Whereas now they can create automations, more efficiencies, and implement them immediately, test them themselves, and then come to the table and say, hey, I built this automation for budgeting for my project and look what it did. And then everybody's like, oh, it works, we're in. So
Mhm.
yes, that's sort of this idealist situation, but there are opportunities for that to happen. And you can't do that unless someone coming in and the people around you don't have the basic fundamental knowledge of how to utilize these tools.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Really like that in the sense of like I think if you're a enterprise corporate kind of employee, like what I certainly saw over on that side of life is people bringing forward a lot of things they want change for. It might be a better idea, it might be a better that. But I think where I saw the falling down is like people don't always know how to create that change and to get it through from an executive level or a decision making level tied to business objectives. And so with this, like the biggest thing is people come in, they're just like, here's a problem. And so from an executive, it just feels like you're throwing a problem at them and they don't have time to solve it and nothing will happen. This gives you the opportunity to make your case, test your case, prototype it, de-risk it essentially. To be like, I've thought about it, I have a framing, I've run some scenarios, or I maybe even tested it a little bit. Like this makes the decision a lot easier for someone to say yes to some really incredible things that you were hoping you could see in the business. So like what a sense of ownership if employees understand that, like and can take it, like what a sense of ownership over your space, your work, your whichever that you could actually impact like far greater changes in your organization as a result of like knowing how to do the exact process that Hogan was just saying.
Yeah.
The, yeah.
Go ahead, Hogan.
My only add to that is it was making me think that to me, it's now a flag if you don't know AI, because to me, that's telling me you're one of the sort of blanket anti AI folks.
Mm-hmm.
And that means you will potentially be a an added headwind within this
Mm,
organization for where it's going, right? Like,
yeah.
no, I don't want to use that. I'm going to stick to doing it my way. Well, even before AI, you don't want that psychological approach to work and your career
Yeah.
in the organization.
Get your
Yeah.
rollerblades. You're going to be at the diner at the drive-in. Shannon, what do you think? I think you certainly deal with teams and building teams a lot, and certainly like a lot of hiring and that sort of experience. How are you feeling about this?
Well, I'm super excited about this because I often think that people who do are early adopters in particular technology or a new process or a different way of thinking can get overshadowed because that the leader or the organization maybe doesn't value it or doesn't measure against it.
Yeah.
And the traditional hierarchy is always that whoever's on top, whatever they're getting measured to, whatever their bonus is tied to, that's what gets done. And so often that gets quashed. What's happening now, and we're hearing in more companies, and I think this paper gives out that same vibe, is that maybe the grassroots and the people who are early adopters, doesn't matter where they fit in their career, but have jumped into AI and are not just using it as like Google on steroids. Like, I mean, actually learning how to build agents or using it to code or using it to build presentations and different things that actually they get lit up by, and there's real value for them in doing that. Those people now have unlocked that creativity, that problem solving, because they have more time to actually spend in their own brain. Like, I
Yep.
think we have seen over the last couple decades that one of the things that technology did and our smartphones did for us was gave us access, always on access. And so we did so much stuff that could be measured as widgets, tasks, items, and leadership was always measured on those tasks and then how much money they made and all of that. Now it's quantifying and understanding how these soft skills work and how spending more time thinking through how you're going to solve problems, that's where the key is. And these companies that are getting that early and now paying for that, like actually saying, I'm going to pay somebody who went out and self-taught, because people who adopt this early are not, there's no courses. Like, there are courses, but I mean, you don't have to have courses. You just have to have Claude how to use it.
Mhm.
It'll tell you. So I'm just really excited that we're starting to see these glimpses and to come from, a very recognized think tank who's putting out papers like this that are seeing this kind of information really early in the game, which again speaks to how quickly this is happening. We can't stand around on this one.
I can't wait
Yeah.
to see this go to the next level because obviously from the league lens, like this is like AI is just in your toolkit the way you would add in other skills. What I can't wait to see is the next great equalizer in the sense of like considering people like roles almost becoming a little agnostic. Like you could be moving
Yeah.
from quite different space to
Mm,
space because the technical barriers no longer exist in the same way that they used to. And we see that a lot in product. And I think that's a lot of what we think about too, is like to the things we're talking about, that skill set is largely a different kind of the skills of the future. It's more your judgment, your perception, your decision making, your ability to like really manage that picture, and less around like, have you technically coded before? Doesn't matter. So now, like, someone now can become, moving into these certain things or these certain kind of roles or like into these other spaces, which I think people used to be very confined by because it's like, oh, it's not my degree is, I'm not trained, I'm gonna have to go
right.
back to school for 6 years to change my career. If I want to go, I've realized this is my passion, but I'm not going to do that because I'm in midlife and I got to send kids to college or whatever that is. And so I'm very excited to see that next evolution of this and how equalizing it can become. Like, let's dial this up and let's see how much we can create the ability to really be fluid. Because I think that's just going to give people a lot more joy and engagement and identification with work that truly matters to them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's true. And it's why we built into League so that we can help measure like proficiency and the propensity that that proficiency will increase over time. And then feeding in that the need for an elevated AI efficiency will also increase because as we can tell, a year ago we weren't using it to code with.
Yeah.
Now, like most of North America, I can't speak to the rest of them, but most companies in North America are using it in some way to, right?
Well,
Or at least
yeah,
test stuff.
the recent news this week could be interesting to your point, Brie, about where this is going, which is, if there's anything that's going to slow it down at this point, it's what's happening with Anthropic and OpenAI right now, where they are
Yeah.
actively changing their token model
Hmm.
that will make the access to some of these tools very exclusive.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
see that as a bad thing, right?
Me
Obviously, they're
too.
in the world of monetization,
Hmm.
and so that's what they need to do. But the reason the adoption has been so quick over the last year, right, is that it's been relatively
Really.
gate free.
Yeah.
And so you've had this quick adoption, but now they're going to switch where I would say 90% of the people that have been using it to code are going to be priced out
Yeah.
Yeah.
because of how expensive it is. And we know there's a technical side to that, right? There's a token shortage. It's being overused at
Some
this
power
point.
shortages. Yeah.
But it goes back to, like you said, like if this truly could be
Yeah.
open in the way they originally intended, there's obvious risks there, but the way people could adopt it would be much faster and better.
Hmm.
Yeah. I heard an interesting theory. I'm gonna call it a theory because it's not proven yet. But the other player in this market that has been a little bit on the quiet side is Google. And Google has so much money that they could just come in and actually make it accessible for everyone, right? They could have a
Hmm.
completely different token, so, similar to how they had Google available for free, and make it, and then they could expand that again. With the only problem is power is going to be the issue. The blockage is there is just not going to be enough power. So
Gonna have to make
just
that
stay
switch to
tuned.
nuclear power.
That's right. And SpaceX goes public today, so we're going to
Yeah,
have all the data centers in space. That's all
yeah.
good.
Put them on the moon.
Exactly. If we can't get them done on the Earth, we're going to put them on the moon. Okay, so story number 3 also feels kind of in this AI training, which the reason I landed on this story this week was this whole thing that employees want to be trained, sort of opposite of what we were just talking about, which is such a breakthrough that when people show self initiative to go out and learn and develop stuff in AI, that's being recognized. What did you guys think about the fact that, sure, we're seeing that there's good usage and some productivity gains, and we're seeing, some time to do more human things, but that employees are now sort of in demanding that they weren't trained properly on AI, so how can they use it? What are you guys' thoughts? Bree, what do you think?
I dug into this one a little bit more too, just to see like some background story. And some of it that they didn't share in the headline there was that they were finding it was creating like significant savings, like a couple hours
Yeah.
in employees' days.
Yeah.
So with that, I think it's such a, again, kind of a fail in terms of like not just hucking it over the fence without any real strategy attached to like how you want your organization to use this and do it. Because so you gave them the opportunity to, you said, use it, and there's no real guidance, or they are using it and now they're getting this like time back in their day, but then also no real guidance how to apply that at the next level. And so like that's where I see that like skill upping. It's like, so if people are using it to a certain degree and doing that, they're finding they're actually having a decent amount of time put back into their day that they could have reabsorbed. Well, to how to think about that time outside of your role, that's different, because that's more how do we propel company objectives forward, less how do I propel my own individual, work or role forward. And so I think again, it's just communication, transparency, and even like from an organizational perspective, I don't get the sense, because we see this time and time again in all these stories, that the organizations are spending enough time truly thinking about what they want it to do for them. It's just like, we know it does good stuff, do good stuff with it, guys. And they just like, put it out there. And so, like, how can we change that conversation is really where I'm thinking, because like it it's one of those things where like, and I think we're all in violent agreement that we're on the pro AI and we love the opportunity it creates. But I think it just like it becomes frustrating when you see like a diamond, but it's just sitting in a little bit of coal, and you're watching them give toothbrushes to everybody to try like scrub it out, and you're like, oh my God, think about it. Get a freaking pick. Like, come on, you guys, like help yourself a little bit here. This is painful. And so like that's kind of where I'm sitting with this kind of story. But Hogan, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. But, I'd add some other things, which is one, I think, first of all, the point you brought up about strategy, it's like, this is pre AI. This has been forever. Like,
Yeah.
if you don't have a unified strategy for your team and an
Right.
understanding of where your company's going, you are not going to succeed. They are not
Yeah.
going to be as useful to you as they should be, because
Hmm.
you need everyone aligned towards the same goals and how we're going to get there.
Mhm.
So that to me is a core of every business, AI regardless. I think the other miss potentially is that having employee or not employees, having employers stick to the same training and onboarding models that have existed
Mm.
pre-AI. Because one of the other huge benefits of AI is that the greatest trainer on any AI system is the AI itself.
Yeah.
And being able to educate your team on, here are the tools that we've built, but the very act of building them has made this tool exceptional at training you on how to use it. And so
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be a resource suck for the organization to train people on AI. It has to be creating an understanding with the employee on AI in general, and that AI is actually your best tutor on a lot of these things. I didn't know how to code anything, and I still don't. But you know what? I've built a lot of things by just having AI walk me through it step by step, and it teaches me how to do it. And so it's not like this organization suddenly has to allocate a bunch of human resources to now train people on AI. No, you need to educate your employees that the AI is set up to be the best trainer you could ever have.
Exactly. That's what I loved about this is that was what I was like, companies need to rethink. This is also one of those things where you need to start to rethink how we've traditionally always done something.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We've always had a training and development part of the organization, and those people used, to go out and train people. But what do we know about adult learning? We know that when you do it yourself and you teach yourself or you're hands on, adults learn faster and retain it so that they can apply it in their own job. AI is perfectly set up for that. And I'll give an example. One of our co-founders, we were working with a new tool this week, and we couldn't figure out how to get some of the data out of the tool that we had just put into it as testing data before the actual data started to flow. And I watched her go step by step, ask Claude, do that step. Ask Claude, how do I do this? Do that step. Oh, that didn't work. Oh, well, okay, then try it this way. And then and eventually we got it all fixed. And and so Claude taught her how to use this other tool. So the same thing applies, right? Like it also will teach you how to use itself. And it's becoming really good, especially now that it knows us. Sometimes it surprises me. It tells me what Bree's thinking, and I didn't even
Yeah.
I know how to get what I want when I have to have three all the hard
Like, what's
questions.
he gonna say about this? Is that what
That's
you're
right.
saying?
Well, last week you had a CGO persona. Now I'm having a CEO persona.
You're like, I'll show you.
Yeah, I'll show you. But it is, I really do think that's the trick here is that actually, if they would have flipped this on their head, and I think it was Salesforce a couple months ago, I read an article about they did like a hackathon, where they got their team to say, like, go and find a problem, and then we're going to do like a contest of who's going to come back and solve these problems using AI. And, they tested or I guess scored them whatever, gave them money or something as a result. I'm pretty sure it was Salesforce, but like it was like exactly that. No training and development, go into teams, figure out how to do it, and come back and tell the rest of the organization. how that works. And I thought like that's exactly how to get this done. Now either they either know how to build agents, they're now using it to code and build prototypes. Maybe the sales team is building all their decks through it now. Like it can be used in all different aspects of the organization. And I think that sounds more fun and people are going to retain it and then also be advocates for it.
You know, it's an interesting thought that came up as you guys were talking. Was just thinking, like, I'm curious to see if the people who are building businesses now in AI, in the world of AI, what if those leaders are going to be better business leaders than maybe what we have seen in the past? My reasoning being, I think, I certainly saw in enterprise and corporate, we've worked with a lot of big brands and things of that nature. I think the old way of business was more reactive. I certainly know when I was going
Mm,
up my career and you're like, man, I'm getting into the invitation into the tables of the higher ups at more enterprise. I would say I don't see this necessarily in like smaller business or maybe like tech or whichever in that way. But as you're going up in some of them, you're just kind of like, can't wait for the doors to be open and to see the inner workings of the magnificent smarts and strategy behind the machine. And then you get up there and you open the door and it's like tumbleweeds blowing around. There's like, doo-doo-doo. There's like nothing really like, it was underwhelming to say the least. And you're just like, oh shit. So like, you really don't know what's where we're going and what was going on here. Okay, well, I'll go make a plan. So you're living off of analysts. So you're living off of the analysts who are helping make the plan. Okay, I've got the model now. But I think with that, I'm just curious to see, and like I hear, as we're talking through, it's like a better strategy, a better this. Like I don't know that that was a toolkit leaders were really utilizing to the degree that leaders of today will be utilizing, because AI forces you to think about your plan to prompt it. It forces you to think about your strategy first, versus before I felt like there was a lot of just get going and we'll figure it out as we go put into the strategy. Not that there weren't strategies, but there was a little bit more of that. So I'm just curious to see. I have no answers to that, but it was just something I was thinking about as you guys were talking. Like, what kind of leaders is it going to produce for today's business?
It reminded me of something that's like, I think, a really helpful tip, which is, I think one of the other weaknesses we've all seen with AI is programmed to often agree with you, praise you,
Mhm.
reinforce some of the ideas that you have. One, you can go in and personalize your account so it doesn't do that. You have to tell it
yeah.
to not do that. But the other thing that can be really helpful for business owners is I was reading an article on this. I tried it myself. It was incredible. Ask AI to do a post-mortem on your business now. Tell
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
tell it your business failed. Tell it we didn't do this. Like imagine your worst case scenario, your worst month, multiply that out and say, hey, we're going out of business. I need a deep dive understanding as to where things may have gone wrong, why this didn't succeed. And it will
Hmm.
start pulling out all of these scenarios based in real life, not predictiveness, why your business failed. But that gives you, to your point, Bree, the
How you work.
tool now to be proactive, to
Yeah.
fight against potential risks and things that could bring your business down or hold you back.
Hmm.
And it removes that stigma of trying to reinforce the positive and things that are working for you and
Yeah.
forces it to say what went wrong, which in reality is what could go wrong. But to the AI, it's something went wrong. I need to diagnose this. And it gives you some foresight on what could go wrong.
Yeah. And on part, like it's a completely unique, separate view. Because I think the thing is, when you get into companies, the politicking comes into play, and like every leader wants to hear their narrative being held forward, and the ones who usually get rewarded are the ones who support that narrative. And so, you can be really skewing the influence or the or how people are looking at it or even presenting it to you, because, I know most leaders didn't really do well when you came to them and said, "Hey, this is really failing." And that was under your house. It is not going well. And that was never
Yeah.
something that was really received very well.
Well, and you think about it, it goes back to the KPIs they're tied to, which are tied to their bonus, which is a significant part of their compensation. But like what Hogan just said, like I think you can still do that, but in a futuristic way. And now you get your C-suite in particular
Yeah.
working on really thinking about what it could look like and how to stop that from happening rather than strategically looking at the same things they've probably done time and time again. Or I used to always see it like it felt like every 3 or 4 years we would just churn the same ideas again. New leader, same idea, just got started again. You won't will go past that because we have this tool that helps us think or foresee things based on a whole bunch of use cases that we would never have been able to read all at one time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly.
And I think the
Yeah,
main
that's
nuance there is
exciting.
though, like if you ask it to sort of come up with what could go wrong, it's
Mhm.
more likely to sugarcoat it. Whereas
Right.
if
But
you
it
say
failed.
it's already failed, then it's
Yeah.
Exactly.
like, oh, it's done. Now I'm going to
Yeah.
do this postmortem and be straight up. This is why it
Yeah.
happened. This is why I failed.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. You do that on many things, I guess, in life then.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
I'm
can
getting divorced. What
say,
happened?
Yeah, my kid's 3. They failed at 18. Tell me what happened.
feel like, well, as a parent, I'm afraid you might have a bit of accountability.
That's right. Okay, so on all that fun, this was great conversation. I love everything that we've been talking about today. And it is getting more positive. Like the sentiment is definitely changing on the topic of work and AI and how this is changing our lives. So I still think that we are making an impact here, and we will continue to have the conversations. But on that note, the big ask this week, the big action this week is do something you genuinely enjoy doing, but haven't done for a while. Often we think in these things they have to be career or they have to be work related. But I just thought, you know what? It's going to be the first day of summer this week. It's usually a time when the weather changes, although I may have had my heater on today. So, Hogan, what would you do if something you haven't done for a while, if you were going to pick something?
It's so simple. I just want to go see a movie at the theater.
Like in a theater?
Yeah.
Any
Yeah.
particular?
I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, so like going to the movies plus babysitter, it's like $150 night out.
Yeah,
And so,
no kidding.
and as someone that's always loved the film world, that kind of entertainment, I miss the theater experience. And
Hmm.
look, it's summer. This is the best
Yeah,
time to go to the
it
theater.
is.
We have some really good movies coming out, and I
Yeah.
want to get back to enjoying it in that environment.
What
Love
movie would you go see if you get the
I
chance?
want to see the new Steven Spielberg movie.
Yeah,
This,
that looks very cool. Looks a
yeah.
little.
And then I want to obviously the Christopher Nolan movie, The Odyssey, coming out is
it.
like
Yeah.
that's one of those movies like Avatar. Like you have to see that in the theater. The whole thing is filmed in
Yeah.
IMAX. Me watching that on my big screen, not even close to the
Yeah.
same. Right. So those are the two. If I can knock those out this summer, I'm a winner.
That's
Okay.
exciting.
Just so you know, Hogan needs a babysitter. Anybody
Yeah.
want to help out? Okay, Bree, what would you do?
You know what? I loved when I saw this question was on there, and then also partnered with Hogan saying he's getting back to the creative space. Is like, I need to spend more time, one, in my garden. It's been also rainy, so we haven't been doing that as much, and drawing. But just in general, I think it was a really nice reminder for me of just like having a bit of an internal reset because it has been so busy. I'm fundraising. I'm fundraising, you guys, and it's so tiring. And like, I haven't washed my hair. That's how I'm getting to. Do you know how many buns I have worn in the last like few weeks? Because I'm just like a dirty bird. I'm literally not even washing myself, you guys. It's so busy and I'm just tired. And I'm like, you know what? You probably need to like manage yourself a little bit better in this scenario. If
Well,
you're
the good
having,
news is you don't look dirty.
Yeah, goodness is. Yeah.
you need to
Except for the funny thing is that when she showed up on camera with her bun on, I'm like, oh,
yeah.
she didn't get to wash her hair today.
Sure. No, it's because I've been using my evening time as like catch up time to like,
Yeah.
and we've
See
had
the
a lot of
children.
events. And like, yeah, so it's like I go home and then we have like the evening family window, but then I slip back up here because then as I'm eating dinner and getting some space in my brain, I'm like, oh God, I have to reply back to so and so. Oh shit, I didn't send that yet. Oh, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. And then I come up here and I have to finish all my correspondence to keep all my goats goating into the herd because they're all need so much wrangling all the time or just like back. Like, yeah, this one was in the pen. Now they're over there. Get back over here. So, yeah, it's just a lot. So it was a good reminder to say, I need to remember that. Put some boundaries around my time because it's very easy to slide into that slippery slope. And I have slipped. I have slipping down the hill and I need to get myself back up.
Especially in the summer. Like, you know, if you live in a place where it's always summer, it's different. But when you live where we live, and the fact is that, 8 months out of the year, we're really closed inside, maybe 6 months on a good year, it is good to get out and get some vitamin D. So it's very important. Which is actually the one thing that I said. I was like, what do I not do anymore that I love to do? And one of them is I was just walking down by the river.
Hmm.
So I don't even have to get in my car to walk down there. But I don't know. I always can come up with a bajillion reasons like, oh, I have this to do. I have to do this work, or I promised I'd do this. And I go do that instead, and which is inside, by the way, not outside. And what's it take me an hour to go down and walk around down by the river and come back? Because it is really tranquil inside the city, which is just great. Little
I like how
high,
those are your
might flood.
too, though. Like the reason that goes on my head to not walk by the river is I'm immediately like, I'll be taken. I'll be murdered. I can't walk.
Okay, where you live near the river and where I live near the river, same river, but it is a little different. Yes,
Maybe
you don't walk by the river by
I'll
yourself.
give you a dog, and then I'll feel differently about it.
That's true. And my dog, well, sometimes when he decides he doesn't want to walk anymore, he just sits down. But, anyways, I think it's good that we all have something that we can do, and hopefully we get those done in the next week or so. Because it's always good to do those things.
Yes, it's important to do those things. And
Very.
it's 2 hours back a day, you guys. You can
Right.
use that for regeneration too, not just pouring it in.
Well, I'm going to
That
steal
is right.
yours too, Shannon. I'm going to add another one, which is as much as, yes, I live in Arizona where I can be outside pretty much all year round, but I don't think in the last year I've spent more time inside sitting at this computer
Right.
doing too much work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even on meetings, I should be go out and take walking meetings. Like I need
Yeah.
fresh air. I need a change of scenery than this home office that I'm stuck in,
Yeah.
Yeah.
8 to 10 hours a day, 5 days a week or more. So
I think it was Monday. I was working from home, and I don't know, it was like 4 o'clock. I look and I'm like, why did I not go and sit outside and work
yeah,
on the deck?
Yeah.
It didn't even cross my mind.
so
And
easy,
so it was,
It's like
yeah,
walk 50 feet, change your environment, get some fresh air.
yeah, yeah,
Well, and that's what's so interesting is like, the work from home, they were forcing people back in the office. This is like you realize when you're at these events and like how much you're getting done when you're locked in. It's like, I don't know why we're worried about productivity. Like, it's like I get so much done, but you're too locked in. It's like you can't get out of it. You're like in the zone.
yeah,
And so we love those thoughts. And maybe we need to also like get off this sense of urgency, Because like
yeah,
I would love to take walking meetings, but for some reason I feel like I need to be able to bring up any piece of information on my
Yeah.
computer at that time in case I need it in the meeting. And it's just like, why do I feel like that? Why don't I just say, oh, I know I have it. I'll find it and I'll send it to you right after this. You know
mhm,
what I mean? When I get back, like, why do I feel like it has to be so instantaneous or something is going wrong? Like, I don't know. Yeah.
highly efficient.
Yeah.
But like we set our own bars,
I know.
right? Like that bar is pretty high.
Yeah.
And so you could lower the bar a little bit and say, I'll send it to you afterwards. And then you could walk around your neighborhood. But please don't get murdered.
Yeah, no.
Well, I think Chris tells me my odds of being murdered are very low. This is in my mind
Okay.
more than
Good
anything.
to know.
Yeah.
Like, this is a you problem.
What is very low and what is the
Yeah, it's like,
acceptable amount?
it's like
Yeah,
weird.
Oh, it's only 10%. I'm good.
it's no
Yeah.
problem.
He's like, you're fine.
10%
Why
in the
don't you do that?
population in Arizona and 10% in the population in Canada is we
Mhm.
don't. Hogan has a better odds than
I
we
think
do.
to the wrong things as a small child. It's just like a few things are very ingrained in my mind. That and like a very irrational fear of sharks in places where sharks wouldn't be. You know what I
Those
mean?
are very irrational given where you grew up.
I have to be careful with the movies I take in my mind. They really like set a tone.
It must be that when people watch Jaws too early, it must have given them this weird
I
fear
will
of
tell
sharks.
you, as a small child, I think I saw Jaws way too young. I don't even remember what age I was. And I remember like whenever I took a bath, I was utterly terrified when we would pull the plug out of the drain because I was convinced that there was something coming out of that drain similar to Jaws. And like that scene of Jaws just like taking down the whole boat and they're like
Hmm.
trying not to slide into the mouth, that like horrified me. And so I have been like incredibly afraid of sharks ever since my whole life. But I literally thought in my own bathtub as a small child, like pinned to the back of the wall, being like, it is coming for me. Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
Anxious
despite your
brains.
trauma, Jaws is one of those that's like
It's
that's a perfect movie.
it is. It's such a good movie, right? Like it's like it was done so well that it was so visceral to me that I
Yeah.
even thought in my
Yeah,
bathtub that
that's
it was gonna happen.
Still holds up even though the shark looks fake.
Yeah, I know he
yeah,
does.
it right. But it is kind of funny. So many people have shark fears, and I'm sure that's where it all came from.
It's 100. That
Especially
movie was
and all of us in
horrifying.
landlocked spaces. We don't
Yeah.
like, hang out on the ocean. But okay, well, this was great. Thank you, Hogan, so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure. And if you're open to it, I'd love to offer your listeners 25% off using the code LEAGUE at checkout if they want to join PIPA.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Love
Yeah,
that. We'll put that even, we'll find a space to even like pump that somewhere. I think that's a great
Yeah, we'll pump that in our socials, but I'll tag it in the notes
idea.
in the comments on the
yeah,
summary of the podcast. So that's great.
perfect.
Thanks, Hogan.
Thank you so
My
much.
pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.